Whoa, that is a lot of journals. You've written in all of those? Yep. I'm pretty addicted to journaling. I've been doing it every day for like over 7 years now. Wow, I've always wanted to journal. I can never really stick with it. What's your secret? Well, I cannot explain to you how often I've been asked this question. What is the secret to daily journaling? Everybody wants to know, especially if you've never done it before. It's like, where do you even start? And once you start, how do you keep going? For those of you who are new, my name is Carrie Walker, and I have been journaling for almost 16 years now. It'll be 16 years in November. And I've been daily journaling for almost 7.5 years now. These are all the journals that I've filled up. I've filled up 25 journals. I'm currently in my 26th one. And everyone always asks, what's the secret? I truly do wish that there was one single golden secret that I could just share with you and have it click and have it stick, click and stick forever, and just have everybody never fail at journaling ever again. Everyone stayed super consistent and journaled every day. Wouldn't that be so cool if I could just share one thing and you're like, aha, that's it. I'm gonna daily journal forever now. Unfortunately, it's not like that. However, I've been sitting and thinking, and I'm like, you know, why have I been able to stick with daily journaling and some people not? Why is it harder for some people over others? And I feel like after pondering a lot and thinking about this, I feel like I've figured it out. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you've probably heard me say that discipline is the biggest factor when it comes to sticking with daily journaling. And I still stand by that. Discipline is a huge part of daily journaling. One of the biggest reasons why people fail is because they rely on motivation to journal and not discipline. But at the end of the day, I feel like there's a little bit more to it than that. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I feel like at the root of that, the big overarching reason why most people don't follow through with daily journaling is because they don't address their struggles. I recently asked you guys on Instagram, like, what is your biggest journaling struggle? So many of you guys shared your different struggles and things that make it difficult. And I kind of want to do like maybe a video series where I address each of them individually. But overall, those struggles, what you struggle most with is probably the reason why you're not able to stick with daily journaling. And it's the failure to address those struggles, which is probably what's really preventing you from succeeding. So I want you to stop and think, what is the biggest thing that you struggle with when it comes to journaling or daily journaling? And it can be more than one thing too. Feel free to comment it down below. Let me know if you want me to go more in depth into that individual thing as well in a separate video. But for now, I wanted to kind of just like break down some of the like most common struggles that I've seen and kind of like a way to address them. I've already mentioned motivation. That is a huge struggle for some people. They're like, I'll feel really motivated for a few days and then, you know, I fall off and I just don't want to do it anymore. Well, the struggle there that you're not addressing is that you can't rely on the motivation. It has to be discipline, which we've already talked about. And in order to like really address that, you kind of need to do like some inner self-reflection and one, address your why of why you want to journal or why you want to daily journal so that you can remind yourself when you're not wanting to, why that goal is ultimately what you want to stick with. In doing that, you almost want to predetermine your response when you're feeling unmotivated. Pushing through those feelings is ultimately what you need to get used to. A lot of you guys had told me that you would just journal a ton and just like be super invested in it, but then you'd almost like burn yourself out. So if burnout is your issue where you just write a ton and then you fall off, then maybe put limits on yourself. Restrict yourself to only doing a little bit at once consistently. Similar to like running a marathon. If you just like run super fast at the start, you're gonna burn out and you're not gonna be able to finish the marathon. If you're wanting to journal every single day for a whole year and you know you're the kind of person that'll write 10 pages every single day and then burn yourself out, then you're not gonna be able to continue finishing daily journaling for the rest of the year because you're gonna be so tired already from journaling. So maybe put like restrictions for yourself and be like, you know what, I'm only gonna journal 1 page a day, or I'm only gonna journal a paragraph at a time, or 3 pages, whatever it may be, whatever's like a happy sweet spot for you. And even if you want to journal more, you're gonna restrict yourself until you're able to build that habit of running consistently, of journaling consistently, and then you're able to kind of give yourself more wiggle room and journal more. Once you've built that habit, you can kind of like have more flexibility with those like restrictions you've given yourself. But consider doing something like that in the meantime as you build the habit so that you don't burn yourself out. If your struggle is that you're too tired to journal, you just wait until the end of the day, and then by that point you're like, oh, I just really want to go to bed, and then you push it off and you don't do it, and you just keep doing that day after day after day. That's your struggle right there. What are you gonna do about it? Maybe journal in the morning, or set an alarm for yourself at nighttime at like, I don't know, 6 p.m., 8 p.m., whatever, where it's not too late yet for you. And no matter what you're doing, stop and go journal right then and there. Or maybe even just get used to just, no matter how tired you are, go do it, go and journal. Maybe have flexibility with yourself. Instead of saying like, I'm gonna journal this amount or for this length of time, say like, I'm just gonna journal 1 sentence. Even though I'm tired, I'm just gonna get it out of the way, I'm just gonna do it so that you can continue building that habit. You do need to be careful with that because you don't wanna get in the habit of like only writing like 2 words every single day if you're wanting to do more than that. So it is kind of a slippery slope if you give yourself that kind of flexibility. You wanna make sure you do have also the discipline to actually sit down and journal if that's what you're wanting to set out to do, and not always just like writing a rushed journal entry right before bed. But allowing yourself to find the balance of like flexibility and discipline can be really helpful when trying to build a habit. Or like I'm gonna show in one of my upcoming videos that when I'm really tired and I don't wanna journal, I will let myself write really big and just fill up the page that way, because that way I'm still getting it in, I'm still doing the act of daily journaling, but I'm not like holding myself to these crazy unrealistic expectations. And that's another thing that people struggle with. They put these unrealistic expectations on themselves, especially when it comes to having like aesthetic, pretty journal entries. Listen, I get it. There's so many beautiful journal entries out there where people are creating these like masterpieces and drawing these beautiful things and including a bunch of washi tape or scrapbooking things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that looks so beautiful. How can I live up to those standards? Or even like, how can you consistently make it look nice and aesthetic? Sometimes you're worried about your handwriting, sometimes you're worried about adding color. You just like want to make it look cute. I get it. But like, take those expectations off of yourself, okay? If that's your biggest struggle, is you're wanting to make it look really pretty and you feel like you can't live up to that, understand that it doesn't need to look like that. And if you want it to look like that, that's okay too. Like, again, I get it. I want my journal entries to look cute and aesthetic because that's like, that just makes me happy. I like when it looks like that. It doesn't always, but I do enjoy doing those kinds of things. It's very creative, it's fun. But also like, keep in mind, a lot of the people who post those kinds of things are either just like naturally amazingly artistic, or more than likely they have been working on it for a long time. So maybe envision that as your end goal or something that you eventually want to work towards. What are steps that you can do to get to that point? Going back to like the marathon analogy, if you're wanting to run a marathon and you've never run before, you're not just gonna like suddenly pick it up one day and start running a whole entire marathon, unless you're just like this naturally gifted athletic runner person, which like I definitely am not that kind of person. It takes time. Before I started daily journaling, I had been journaling for like almost 10 years. So like I was already kind of used to the idea of journaling, or like what it felt like to journal. And then when I started daily journaling, I was just pretty much using like a black pen for the longest time. And then I started experimenting with different things, and I slowly started implementing different like colors and drawings and doodles and all those fun things and taping things in. It's been like over the course of however many years that I've gotten to a point where I feel more comfortable with the aesthetics and making journal entries look really pretty. But even then, I still don't make it look pretty every single day. So give yourself grace. Be like, it doesn't need to look beautiful. And even if you do want it to look beautiful, allow yourself the time to grow into that, to learn those things, to try and experiment different things. It's okay if it looks messy and ugly and gross. Like, it's literally your journal, and how great is that you would be able to like look back and track the progress of like where you first started when you first started journaling, and then where you are like however many days, months, years later, and see that progression. That's so cool. But like, not all of my journal entries are pretty. Something that I need to remind myself often is that my daily journal is a reflection of my daily life. And some days of my life are super amazing. They just feel really productive and great, or really positive and awesome. Other days are not like that. Other days are really sleepy. Other days are really just like blech, not great. So like, it's kind of beautiful when your journal is able to like reflect that accurately. You don't want to be fake in your journal and have it like made out like you're always living this amazing life if there's these normal ups and downs in your life. Some days you might have a really aesthetic looking journal entry, and some days it might be just like really scribbled, and that's okay. That's an accurate depiction of being a normal human being. A lot of people say that they struggle with time. They're like, I just don't have the time to journal every single day. I have too much on my plate. It's just too much work. I just can't do it. Okay, if that's your struggle, I get it. I am definitely the kind of person to pile a bunch of stuff on my plate, and then when I think of adding a new thing or something else into my schedule, sometimes it's really overwhelming. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I already have a lot going on. I'd love to do that. I'd love to have time to do that, but I just don't. But let's be super duper real with ourselves right now. People make time for the things that they want to do. If you truly want to daily journal, you're gonna make the time for it. I know, it can be really hard to do so, but if you really want to do it, you'll make the time. If you really make up in your head that you want to go to the gym on a regular basis because you want to like get on top of your health grind, that is amazing. And if you really set your mind to that, you're gonna make the time. If there's someone you're talking to that you're crushing on and you really want to talk to them, but you're like also really busy, you're gonna find the time to talk to them. Even if it's like waking up 5 minutes early to journal, or staying up 5 minutes later to journal, or journaling while you're eating lunch. Also, like, check your screen time. We're on our devices so much time is wasted on our phones, etc. And you could very easily just be like, you know what, instead of being on my phone right now, I'm just gonna take 5-10 minutes to journal real quick. Take off the pressure that you have to like journal for like an hour at a time, or 20 pages a day, or even 1 page a day. And also, like, some days are busier than others. Sometimes it just really truly is hard to sit down and journal when you're just so swept up in everything. So like, take the pressure off of like having to have this like super lengthy journal entry. Going back to kind of what we were saying with the discipline, as long as you do it to some extent and get it in, you're still building that habit, and you're like way more likely to just like actually go and do it. And if that habit is already established and built, then it's so much more easy to just sit down and write for a longer amount of time, or to make more time for it when you've already gotten that like baby steps of building the habit covered. If you're stressed about writing everything, which I get that is something I really struggled with. Honestly, I struggled with this before I even started daily journaling. I would have these extensive lists on my phone of like things I still needed to journal about and getting caught up, and I would just feel so guilty and overwhelmed by all of the things that I still wanted to write about. Or even when I was daily journaling, I was like, I don't have time to write about everything that happened. It's just so much. I'd get overwhelmed. Before I started daily journaling, when I was overwhelmed by the amount that I had to write about, I would just neglect my journal even more. I was like, I'll get to it at some point, or I would wait to find like this time of like 4 hours that I could sit down to journal about everything and catch up. You've seen me do like the journaling marathons. The biggest thing I would say to address something like that is really just like taking a step back and reminding yourself that it's okay to not write everything down. As a documenter at heart, I love taking pictures, I love videos, I love journaling obviously. I want to write it all down. I want to take all the pictures and have everything documented, but I also need to remind myself that it's okay to forget some stuff. It's okay that I'm not gonna journal about everything. At the end of the day, like, it's impossible to write down everything. And also, like, how often am I really gonna be sitting down and reading all of my journals cover to cover and remembering every little thing? Give yourself grace. Know that it's okay if you miss some stuff. And like, if it's really important for you to write down, then like, maybe just try bullet pointing it out. Journal like the big details and be like, you know what, if I have time another day to like really write about the details, then I'll get to it at some point. But in the meantime, you can like get the gist of it down so that it's still like there, but it's okay if it's not like fully there in all of the details. Sometimes you also just need to have discipline and just like sit down and do it. If it's important to you to like get all the details down, you just need to make the time. You kind of need to like weigh like, what's more important for me to do right now. If you have a lot on your plate, you're like, would I rather sit and journal all the details about this thing, or would I rather go and do this other thing that you also want to get done? If you struggle with finding a routine with journaling, what can you do to make it a routine? You can set an alarm every single day and journal at the same time. You can set reminders for yourself. Put it on a sticky note on your mirror, or maybe find a journaling buddy. Have somebody that you can like sit down and journal with, or call up on the phone and journal with them at the same time, or even just like text each other like, hey, have you journaled yet today? Kind of in that same vein, if you struggle with just like forgetting to do it, having those reminders or a journaling buddy can be really good. And also another thing you can do is like literally keep your journal in plain sight. Don't put it away in your desk drawer or like hidden under your mattress, unless you're worried about someone reading it. Then like do what you gotta do, I don't know. But like keeping it in sight makes it so much easier for you to grab it and go and journal. If you have like your pen set out, everything just ready to go right there in front of your face where you always go and do your homework, or like if it's next to your coffee maker because you always like drink coffee in the morning, or your toothbrush, I don't know, like if it's somewhere accessible, you're much more likely to actually go and grab it and do it. Make sure you can see it. Maybe even consider like keeping the journal open if you're able to. Like if you're not in like a super private space, like I get not wanting to do that, but like if you're able to, you can totally keep your journal open, because something about like having it physically there, open and ready, like that just makes it so much easier to just go and start writing in. I do that with my Bible a lot. I will keep it open on purpose, like right on my desk, because sometimes just like opening the Bible like is the hardest part. when you don't feel motivated. So if it's like already right there in front of me and I already have my little highlighters ready to go, I'm much more likely to like actually do it. Let's see, what's another struggle? Oh, a lot of people have struggles with writer's block or not knowing what to write, or they're just like, oh, my day is so boring. Okay, well, first of all, if your day is so boring for you, a solution for that would be to try journaling prompts. Look up different things that you can write about, or even challenge yourself to like live your day looking for something to write about, even if it's just a little bitty thing. If it's like, oh, it rained today and I really admired the way the raindrops fell on the window. I don't know, even if it's something like that. Or like, you know, when I was walking to work today, this person smiled at me and held the door open and it really made my day. There is something really sweet about having a mundane, boring day and like almost forcing yourself to look for something to write about, because it kind of will help you find the beauty in your day. Also, like, boredom births creativity. Like, that is when we're most creative, is when we're bored. I could go on about that, of how there's so many people that lack the ability to be super creative. Like, I struggle with it too sometimes because we're so overstimulated. There's hardly ever a time where a lot of people are truly bored because we have like social media at our fingertips. So if we're bored, we can just scroll on our phone. But when you are truly bored, when you have like nothing going on up there, that is when I feel like you're the most creative. Honestly, going back to the raindrop thing that I just said, have you seen where people are like, oh, when I was a kid, like, I would watch the raindrops on the window of the car and like race them in my mind and see which raindrop would like fall down the fastest on the window. That was because you're bored sitting in the car having nothing else to do. But then kids nowadays, like, if they're just playing on iPads or watching movies in the car, they're never gonna do something like that. They're not using their brain. So if you're feeling really bored and you just have this really boring day and have nothing to write about, maybe that's when you're gonna like really experiment and try something new and push your thoughts and force yourself to write about something a little deeper. Or if you want to use journal prompts, there are a ton of awesome prompts out there. I have plenty of journal prompt videos. You can find more on YouTube. You can find some on Pinterest, Google them, whatever it may be. Find 1 or 2 or 7 that you like and just write about them. Even if you have plenty of stuff to write about, you can totally look into journal prompts because I think they're really cool. They're really awesome. And maybe you'll write about something that you wouldn't have before. If you get bored of using the same journal and you just like don't want to stay in it anymore, then find a way to make it not boring. Spice it up a little bit. Or maybe you don't need to fill up the whole journal. Maybe you're the kind of person that it's okay to just switch journals halfway through. If that's what it takes for you to continue journaling, do that if you need to. Or if you really want to like finish a whole journal and you just like really struggle with that, then maybe try writing for a longer stretch of time, or be more disciplined with like actually sitting down and doing it. Keep it open on your desk so that you're more likely to grab it. Incentivize yourself in some way. Be like, oh, if I finish this journal, I'm going to buy this little treat for myself. Or for every page that I write in this journal, I'm gonna do something fun. I don't know. Sometimes if I'm studying, I'm like, for every paragraph that I read, I'm gonna eat a gummy bear or like whatever snack that I'm having. And that's just like my little way of like incentivizing myself to get through it and like get the studying done, because I want to eat my gummy bears or whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, if I read this paragraph, then I'll eat one, and then I'm like, I'll keep wanting to read through it. So like you could do that maybe like with your journaling and be like, for every page that I write or every paragraph that I write or however many lines, I'm gonna eat an M&M. Just something like a little silly like that. I don't know. All of that to say, identify your struggles. What is the biggest thing that you struggle with when it comes to journaling? You guys told them to me on my Instagram, so I know you know. Be really honest with yourself here. And bonus points if you write about it in your journal. And then from there, like, figure out the solutions. What are ways that you can make it easier for yourself, that you can help address those struggles and eliminate them? All in all though, it really is going to come down to discipline, being honest with yourself, and also giving yourself grace and having flexibility within that. Also, if you really are relying on motivation, like, find more motivation when you're not wanting to do it. Maybe make a little like motivation board for yourself, or maybe follow more journaling creators so it's showing up on your Instagram feed. Maybe put like a picture of yourself journaling as your lock screen. I don't know. Do what you gotta do. If you enjoyed today's video, I would totally love it if you gave it a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the Journaling Army. We would love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!